This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Laguna Seca showed a renewed effort from Diaz in which he snagged his first victory. And if he proved able to overtake at the technical Laguna Seca, will Mid-Ohio also wind up being happy hunting grounds? Current champion Acosta might have something to say about that. Will things remain civil between the teammates? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 2 of the PRL GTE Sportscar series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sam, you can't get much more appropriate to race GT cars at a track which includes sports cars in the name of the circuit itself.
I've got to admit, Joe, I never actually thought about that until you pointed it out in the script. But you are right, yes. Even though it has sports car in the name, that it doesn't mean to say that's the only thing raced here. I mean, this is a very grassroots track. You could take a car out here, I'm sure, if you had a roll cage in it. That being said, you can also take an Indy car out here, Indy car race at this road course. But as you mentioned, it is mostly known for its sports car racing, and rightfully so. It's got a long straight there that leads into a heavy braking zone, a great passing opportunity. Then you see at the top end of a racetrack there on our track map that it does get a little bit twisty. The cars are single file and honestly hanging on for dear life. A lot of elevation change there. Let's give you an idea of what it looks like when you get it all right with our GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Reed Miller in the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Mid-Ohio. Down the front stretch, turn 1 immediately throws you a challenge. This is a fast corner where if something goes wrong, you'll be sailing off into the gravel very quickly. It'll be important to make sure you get a good run off of here because it's an uphill climb all the way to the next braking zone at the keyhole. This is the first of very few good chances to pass someone on this short lap. If you can't get it done here though, it's much better to square up your exit off this hairpin. That's because it's the longest acceleration zone of the track on your way down the backstretch. Get yourself a decent run on your opponent and it's much easier to simply overtake them in a straight line. If that doesn't happen, eventually you reach China Beach and you can try to outbrake them. But it's a challenge no matter which side you choose. The track immediately switches back into madness so you can see passes made to the right or the left. Now you're into the more technical portion of the lap, and you can expect the racing to be mostly single file. You need a bit of patience on the throttle until the S's, but as soon as you weave through those, you're easing the car into the awkward braking for the jump. It's hard enough going in, but the crest coming off requires you to be gentle on the throttle as well. Now you fly through Thunder Valley, where you've got to hold as close to the Armco on the right as you dare. You need that space to give you the widest angle possible into 11. There's no time to relax because this all ends with the carousel. Late apexing this never-ending turn will be important because you're not lifting your right foot until the first corner again. But hopefully you've now finished a lap around Mid-Ohio. You see a little bit sunnier day with our lap guide here around in the Ford GT, but as always, today's race is brought to you by SIMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring organizations, companies, manufacturers, teams, and drivers together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. They're also bridging virtual and real motorsports by providing a network between these two, involving sim racers, real drivers, teams, managers, engineers, and of course, motorsport fans alike. You can find out more about how you can get involved at simsa.net. Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products create an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. The winner of Division 1 here on the PRL GTE Sports Car Series will get a Butt Kicker Game or 2 or a simulation kit. Also, both drivers of the winning team in the team's championship will get a free t-shirt. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. So let's take a glance at the championship now that we have had one race under our belts. And I mentioned it, Michael Diaz taking the win. In fact, not just the win, he had the fastest lap and the pole. So we got some bonus points along the way. That means he's 5 ahead of Abner Acosta now down there in second. Now, Karen had a good climb forward to get into third. And then you see Eisler and Valenzuela rounded out the top 5 of the field at Laguna Seca. What about the team's championship, though? That could be a little bit mixed up compared to the drivers.
Yeah, it is. It's very close at the top of the standings. There you see Punto Racing just ahead of our defending champions, Obsidian Racing, 1 point in it, which is saying something. You know, Obsidian Racing only has 2 drivers, and they finished first and second at the season opener, and they're qualified second right now, as qualifying is going on here at Mid-Ohio. But Punto Racing has 3 drivers racing for them. That could help give them the edge. So maybe Obsidian Racing need to start looking for a third driver there, Joe.
Yeah, we'll see. But so far, especially last season and this season, they've been incredibly fast with just 2. Let's take a look at today's race, though, and what all is involved in that one. As we mentioned, we are in round 2, and they have 4 different makes of cars that they can choose from. Now, the race distance in this series is 60 minutes, but they still have 1 scheduled pit stop because they've limited the fuel cells compared to what the real cars can use. They don't need to take tires. They can if they want to, but we don't expect them. They have an incident cap of 20 incidents. You can rack those up around here, as there's plenty of places to make mistakes. And there you see the bonus points that they can accrue, not just the pole and the fastest lap, but if they have a clean race of less than 3 incidents, that can also help them out there. That'll be important to try and keep it together, not just for disqualifying, but because of that. So, once again, as we like to always mention, you're watching this on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe when you get the opportunity. All you got to do is click the big red subscribe button that is just below this video on YouTube, and then you'll see all of PRL GTE Sports Car Series on your YouTube feed. You mentioned the qualifying, Sam, and it's looking very familiar to last week. Diaz and Acosta up at the top. But interestingly, Karen seems to have upped his pace. Qualifying was down in 6th at Laguna Seca, but he is currently in the top 3.
Yeah, and he finished 3rd and sits 3rd in the point center in this race. So maybe that was a little bit of a confidence boost for him. Let's also give a shout out to fellow GSRC commentator John Ambrose, sitting in 7th place right now. He also had a good qualifying performance at the season opener at Laguna Seca, but ran into a bit of an issue before the start of a race and started from the pits, which kind of doomed him for the rest of the day.
Yeah, he had a bad week here in the PRL. Didn't have a good finish to his race in the Truck Series either last week. But as we watch the Texan come around, currently sitting in 7th, he's going to try and improve on this 1:16.5. And he does not that time through a 1:17.1. He's still got quite a few laps left to go if he wants them. But also many other drivers do as well. We now watch Abner Acosta come around through the carousel. This track tends to be kind of slotted as one of the more difficult ones to try and get passes around here, Sam. We haven't seen really in the past that these GTE cars give off the greatest of drafts, so do you think it's going to be a lot of single file throughout this race?
It could be, just for the fact that, you know, these drivers are sensible, but I don't think it'll be all single file. You know, these cars compared to something like an IndyCar around here, they spend more time on the straight because they don't have as high as top speed, and also they're less upset by the aero wash coming off a car in front. So it does mean they can follow each other closely and make passes when the opportunity presents it, definitely down the back straight. So I don't think it's going to be completely absent. And you mentioned this being a tricky circuit. It definitely is, especially the hurry downs, the twisty part of a track in the middle of the lap. There's some tracks that are trickier, but I think the biggest thing that's going to be helping, or maybe even hurting some of the drivers out, as we see Paulo Munoz go for a little drift in the spin, it's the track temperature. It's very cool out here today, and that could be very bad news at the start of a race when everyone's cars are cold. But once their tires do get up to temperature, I think they're going to have an easier time keeping it on the circuit, considering it looks like there's a lot of grip out there.
Well, riding on board with Peterson, who had a good run his second last night in the prototypes for Autobahn, but we missed that Andrew Caron has taken second away from Acosta. Could he manage to possibly split the Obsidian drivers? Now, Abner, I believe, is on an out lap right now, so I don't think he's going to be able to improve on this time by. And indeed, yeah, that lap was not counted. So this starts the hot lap for the number 5. The question is, can he get back to his teammate?
I also notice on the scoring pylon on the left-hand side there, 2 things worth pointing out. There's only 5 thousandths of a second separating Caron and Acosta in second and third, and 13 cars within a second of a pole sitter right now, which is pretty close considering how many tricky corners there are at this circuit.
Get a little bit of a toe there, Acosta, on Ambrose and his Ferrari. He comes down to China Beach. So far, so good on this lap. Acosta, last race, managed to actually get to the lead temporarily ahead of his teammate, and that was through the pit stops, but didn't have the overall pace as Michael eventually was able to overtake him. This week it's looking a little bit similar in the qualifying as Diaz took the pole last time, and Acosta still about 2.5 tenths behind his teammate. So thus far, even though he is our current champion, Diaz certainly seems to have the measure of him.
Yeah, and we spoke to both of them following the opening race and got their thoughts on that, how aggressively they plan on racing each other through the championship, what they expect of each other. And it's interesting seeing, as Acosta's taken second back from Caron, it's interesting seeing what Caron can do, because he just came into the pits and made a couple of adjustments on his car and is going out for one final run.
I think he might be able to get 2 laps in potentially, as they're lapping here relatively quickly. A minute and a quarter just to get around. So these drivers are, you mentioned the Indy cars. That's actually not too far off in Indy car's pace, as we watch Garrido, who has gotten himself on the outside of the second row. He comes through madness now, up and over into the S's. So let's see as he comes over the leap. This is one of the trickier corners where the car starts to go away from you. Now, we are earlier in the day here in the qualifying, Sam. So the sun's going to continue to go up, even though it's a bit cloudy. If the clouds do go away by the time they get to the race session, they could deal with a steadily increasing track temperature.
Yeah, you're starting to see it poke through at various parts of the circuit. I wonder if that will affect the lap times we'll see here at the end of the session. Only got 2 minutes left, so I don't think it'll upset them too much, considering the recent iRacing updates. Acosta just went faster, I think. No, he didn't. That's where he was before, still second.
Yeah, he must have gone into the pits and then come back out, actually. Because that 116 flat... Oh, he did go faster, actually. You're right. So he's managed to improve once again, down to 0.119 behind Diaz. Caron has about a tenth to improve. Boy, Garrido and Holland also incredibly close. That's between 5th and 6th, so the third row have 1,000th between them. And neither has improved in recent times. Holland, about 2 laps ago, managed to get it down to a 16.3 as we watch Caron come around on a hot lap now, coming over the leap.
Yeah, and qualifying is going to be very important here. You mentioned we were discussing about how easy it is to pass here, and it's not very easy. It's not impossible. But the other thing, of course, it's a 1 hour race, which is a sprint race in GT racing terms. And also, they only get one stop, and there's only so much you can do with strategy with one stop. As Caron just put on the lap time there, didn't improve. He was a few hundredths off. Oh, no. Oh, wow. A bit of an incident there in the pits. Caron... That
was Munoz, trying to exit the pits, and Caron pulled off into the pit lane right in front of him. Now, the
Right.
good news for Munoz is he can come back right out with a fresh car, so he doesn't lose too much time.
Yeah, that was a bad parking location for Karen, so he abandons his lap, and then Munoz just try and exit the pits, gets right into the back of him. So the other thing, Joe, is I don't think Munoz would have ever made it to the line in time to start another lap. So
Yeah, I was just checking that myself and realizing, does he have enough time to start a lap? And in neither case, you're right. He would have, as the checkered flag now comes out and drivers start to complete those hot laps. Abner Acosta, who's in second, is going to be the first across. Let's see if he can improve. He comes to the line, and he does not. He is 3/100ths off.
Sun's gone back away. There's other cars out here. Here is Horatio Calkin, who is currently. Oh boy, if you're superstitious, this isn't good, is it, Jerry? 13th in the 666 car.
I don't think he's superstitious since he chose the 666. As we go to 8th place, Federico Montini does not go faster that time by. Looks like one car pulling off. That's Michael Diaz, who doesn't feel like improving. Doesn't matter since he's still on the pole. Calquin in 13th. Is he going to be the last one to be able to come across the line here? I see Borda out there, but I think he may have already crossed. Ratio with a 1:16.7. That's his best lap, but he stays in 13th, so that's not going to improve his position.
Before we read out the grid order here, Joe, which I think we're about to do, I want to give a shout out to Diego, qualifying 5th again. He was definitely one of the more exciting drivers to watch at Laguna Seca.
Well, let's hope he doesn't have the same mistake that he had on the last lap. We're watching Borda just in case he can manage to come around. Oh, and he had an off track, so he's not going to be able to complete this one anyways. That will settle our grid for today. Let's go through your starting order. Michael Diaz on the pole with Abner Acosta next to him in second. Then it's Andrew Caron with an improved qualifying starting third. Second row completed by Christian Eisler. That's exactly where he qualified last race. Diego Ignacio Portel Garrido will be starting fifth. We like to just call him Diego. David C. Holland will be starting P6. Then you've got Lucas Bacigalupo in 7th position. Federico Montini will be next to him in 8th. Row 5, John Ambrose. Actually finding the grid this time. Hopefully he doesn't escape back into the pits. He'll be starting 9th. Top 10 rounded out by Munoz.
Leif Peterson will be starting 11th, and then starting in 12th is I like to play the Anthony Pisano. See, it's almost like piano there. Horatio Calkin, we just saw him finishing up his run. He'll be starting 13th, and then Lyndon Swaby will be starting 14th. Jess Carullo rounds out the top 15. James Hobb will be starting alongside him, and then on row number 9, we've got Sean Duhamel and Stacey Dunnigan. Ted Lowendick will be starting from 19th place ahead of JF Karinji.
Fernando Borda starts 21st, then Ignacio Rodriguez Fredes starts 22nd. Jonathan Almanar will be P23. Joey Trungale is on his outside in 24th. Then the 25th spot goes to Donald Olson. James LeBlond starts P26. Elijah Mitchell, 27th. Jared Duploy, who saw a lot of action last race, he'll be 28th. Hopefully he can keep it on the black stuff. Kenneth Rodriguez will be 29th, and Spencer Semkovich will be 30th.
4 more cars here that you need to make note of are Jose Malbren, Danny Duchenne, Gary Philin, and Francisco Yaneselli. The other 3 drivers you see there who didn't turn the time in qualifying are not in the session, so it looks like we've got a 34 car field.
It is a pretty big field, even larger than what we saw in the first week. And they'll have a very short run on this pace lap before they get going. You can see the Porsche pace car just in Thunder Valley right now. They will come up over turn 11, through the carousel, around the final kink of turn 13, and across the line after the pace car is peeled off. But the back of the field will definitely still be back in the turn, Sam. So it could be a difficult one at the start.
Unlike what I'm seeing here on iRacing recently, a lot of road courses now going to not full pace laps. It makes it a lot more entertaining for us.
They started that a couple years ago, and thankfully it gets things going a little bit quicker especially here on the broadcast, as the pace car now peels in. Diaz has control of the field. Green flag is out immediately. Diaz on the loud pedal, and he stretches away from his teammate Acosta. They get single file. Karen having to go defensive to both Eisler and Garrido, who are fighting side by side behind them through turn one. This is one of those danger zones as drivers take a very fast swing through this left-hander.
Yeah, now they're coming up to the keyhole, this right-hander with Diaz leading the field around. I was keeping my eyes on Diego there at the start. Missed the excitement from last race. This time he's gotten off to a very good start. Not exciting, but probably making him feel good. Up there in fourth position, you see all these GT cars, 4 different cars, but they're all racing in the same class, all racing for the same position, and it's a position that Diaz has as they come to the end of the backstretch.
Snaking down towards China Beach. Diaz, as you mentioned, up in the front. Abner Acosta following behind. Andrew Karen as well has not given up. In fact, the first break that we get in the traffic is back to fourth with Garrido. I think we had an off in the middle of the pack. James Hebb looks like he has just worked his way into the grass, but come back to the pavement. So no harm, no foul, but he falls to 22nd.
He started 16th, so it was a little bit costly. It's a lot easier to lose 6 positions than to gain them.
Especially at a track like this, as our leaders come across the line for the first time here in round 2 of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. Diaz certainly not relieved of pressure. And that is Acosta that you see behind him as the 2 Ferraris climb up the hill to the keyhole.
So let's see, are we going to see Acosta saving his stuff, maybe trying to play a bit of fuel saving, because that's one strategy thing you can do, or is he going to go aggressive and try and get the lead? Talking of aggressive, fender-to-fender contact between Montini and John Ambrose, battling for 8th place. Ambrose is able to get it, at least he will, if he can beat Montini in the braking zone. That's Ambrose on the inside, and he takes it.
So Ambrose up to 8th now as, wow, that caused a big checkup, and Munoz has to get out of it. Leif Peterson takes a little bit of a peek because of that, but the chain reaction eventually settles down and no other overtakes take place.
Yeah, there's a bit of door-to-door contact between those two going down the back straight, Joe. Hopefully that hasn't upset their cars too much. That's Ambrose and Montini.
Yeah, I think they managed to get away with that one for sure. Still very early in this race, and Diaz starting to now pull away, managing to get about a 0.6 of a second gap over Abner Acosta. Karen close behind, though. Managed to finish 3rd last race, but I have a feeling the 06 is looking to move up here.
Diaz gets the fastest lap of a race on lap 2. That shows you he intends on pulling away in the early stages and building up a cushion. It's most of the field single file. There's a bit of a challenge for 12th between Horacio Calquin on Anthony Pisano, but those two remain where they started, with Pisano in 12th and Calquin in 13th.
Meanwhile, Carini, if we go back to 22nd, James Hebb working his way back forward. He was going backwards last race. This early mistake giving him a chance to do some overtakes instead of being overtaken, and he gets it done down into China Beach. So move to the 77 up into 21st.
And see if James Hebb ends up becoming now Diego from Laguna Seca. If Hebb can replicate the good part of his performance here at Mid-Ohio, where he charges his way through the field, seeing most of field run single file, Hebb has no intentions of doing that.
Yeah, it's been very difficult to pass here in the early stages, which we kind of expected as we see them come around the carousel. Now we switch up to the leaders who are onto the run to the keyhole. Karen still applying a little bit of pressure to Acosta. Diaz stretched away to 1 second last time by. He has got a good pace advantage over his teammate. Abner being relegated to defense at this point. Karen managed to take a win last season. If he can get past Acosta, if then potentially could he chase down Diaz? Sorry, just behind them, that was Garrido that we just saw a flash of going very wide. Thankfully didn't go off track, but he lost big contact with Karen.
Yeah, we got the battle for 9th place between Federico Montino and Paulo Munoz. Munoz has been aggressively trying to get by Federico. He hasn't made any contact or anything, but he's been looking left and right. For now, he's settled down back into 10th place, but he wants that spot.
He's got a train of 4 cars. You mentioned Montini up at the front of it, followed by Munoz. Well, they've also got Lee Peterson and Anthony Pisano back there. They come to the start-finish straight. Actually, I should just call it the finish straight, as most series do start this races here at this track down the backstretch. Great run around the first corner for Montini. Pulls himself away from Munoz, where they have a potential passing zone up into the keyhole. So he is not under attack for now.
So still a lot of close racing early on here, Joe, which of course is to be expected with a pack of 34 cars.
We got a battle for 14th. Sorry, it's Swaby and Dunnigan. And now it might be a 3-car battle because that's Carollo in there as well as he makes contact with Swaby. And unfortunately, the Pirate has hit the beach.
Yeah, I don't think Swaby's going to appreciate that very much. I think he kind of had the edge on him. We'll see, though, if my eyes deceived me. Did Carollo, was he alongside him? They'll argue about it, yeah.
But he wasn't squeezing him. He gave him space down at the apex. That sent him all the way to the back to 31st spot for the number 100, Lyndon Swaby. Watching from on board. I'd say a racing incident on that one.
I was starting to feel a bit concerned for Acosta, but Diaz, he's been able to reel him back in last lap.
Yeah, it's down to 0.6 of a second. Oh, and Joey Trungale with some problems, and there's somebody else back there. That is Elijah Mitchell. And Mitchell was an innocent bystander. Trungale got hit from behind by Almanar through the first corner. And it wound up with a really bad situation for both drivers. Trungale gets back on the course, but loses a lot of positions in the process.
Yeah, it was all happening just a little bit outside the top 20. Still respectable positions to be fighting for a top 20 in a 34-car field. Unfortunately, if you're in the pits this early on, you might be outside of that top 20, I'm afraid. I'll tell you something else, talking about the size of this field, Joe. We haven't mentioned it yet, and we won't have to discuss it for a while, but lap traffic will be a factor later today, and they won't be easy to get by.
Yeah, the first one up will be Yaniselli, who runs in 34th. But he's about half a track away from Michael Diaz, so really, as you said, no concern. They're more looking in their mirrors. Andrew Caron stays within about half a second of Abner Acosta, even though he has been running down Michael Diaz. They come down to China Beach one more time and stay in order. Diaz first, Acosta second, and Caron third.
The sun's starting to shine around half this racetrack. We actually had quite a bit of cloud cover, it seemed, roll in right before the start of this thing, so we'll see if that affects the proceedings. Tell you what, it doesn't matter what the weather is. I think Caron intends on getting second place very soon. Oh, that's not the way to do it.
Yeah, going off track is certainly not going to help. And good thing that Caron didn't spin the car out of there, as it's easy to get it turned around hitting the grass like that. They come out of the carousel now, not starting, but continuing, if anything, to drop Garrido. Diego about 1.3 behind them. It hasn't been able to make up ever since he overshot the corner down into China Beach.
Yeah, he's doing an awesome job, though, to be able to hold on to fourth place after making that pretty significant mistake. He still has about a second cushion over Christian Eisler in fifth.
Let's check into the mid-pack, because it looks like we got a relatively close battle for 14th still. Dunnigan and Carollo, along with Lowendick. You can see them coming around the keyhole and onto the back stretch, the main place where you tend to see overtakes, but nobody looks like they really have that great of a run over the other.
Dunnigan has been one of her biggest movers so far today. Started 18th, is already up to 14th. Let's see if he can get more similar.
Yeah, sorry, there was just a little peek to the inside from Carollo on Dunnigan. Stacy managed to hold him back. Ooh, but goes a little hot into the madness corners. And the number 899 looking a little rattled by that move.
Yes, a similar race to what we saw at the start at Laguna Seca, where the front end of the field was kind of calm. There was a lot of action in the middle of the field, though. We're getting that once again. Although I'll tell you, there are 6/10 of a second covering our top 3 leaders right now.
You're right. Karen closed it down to about 0.2 of a second. Costa is dealing with this admirably well. But I have to wonder, how long will the 06 be willing to sit back there in the wake of Acosta? Or maybe he wants to sit back in the wake. You talked about fuel saving.
Yeah, V3, if for whatever reason Diaz is a bit slow, though, and holding these guys up, that could actually reel Garrido in. He's only about 1.5 seconds back off the tail end of this pack.
Hasn't been gaining a whole lot. He's chopped about 1/10 off of the top 3 since we last looked. They come out of the S's into the leap and then plunging through Thunder Valley. A lot of elevation change all over this course. This part in particular, cresting over turn 11 and then back into the carousel once more to complete yet another lap. They are now nose to tail. For as much as they spread apart, Sam, it has been an accordion.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Diaz, but I think he's slowing up a little bit, and this is bunching them all up. This is actually far different to what we saw at the front of the field last race at Laguna Seca, where the top 2 kind of trekked out on the rest. Right now, we've got the top 7 cars within 4 seconds, and Diaz might not be holding on to this lead for much longer because he seems to be a little bit off the pace. And while Acosta and the rest of the field are stuck behind him, they're all getting closer and closer together. And I almost wonder if Diaz might have to take one for the team here and let Acosta take the lead and pull away from the rest. Acosta does look to the outside, but that's not happening, so no team orders here. Diaz has every intention of keeping this lead. And now the top 4 bunched together and 3 more cars closing in. Let's give a shout out to the driver at the tail end of that train, because we haven't mentioned him today, and we haven't mentioned him, Joe, because I can't pronounce his last name, but he's called Lucas.
Basigalupo is my best attempt at that one. Apologies if we do have that wrong. We'll try and get that a confirmation a little bit later. That attempt, though, has cost a little bit of a gap up to Diaz. And now Karen approaching the back, the rear spoiler of the number 5. As they come onto the front stretch, he finally manages to pull away. That battling is really slowing them up, because now Christian Eisler, the 727, 7/10 away. How many 7s can we get into this one? Is closing in on, well, the 317.
Top 6 cars within 3 seconds of another, but we got a bit of action.
Fasano. And that's low and Dick as well. Looks like Stacy Dunnigan also involved. Stacy following behind and just sort of plowed into it. Lowendick managed to run into Pisano. And that was after Pisano spun and a pass attempt on Peterson. Tell you what, and you know what? Jeff Carollo had a touch of it. That was from onboard Stacy's perspective. Jeff Carollo absolutely pounded him out of the way. The 52 might not be in the best of shape.
I think there's a few drivers who came off pretty rough from that. And so a pile up here at Mid-Ohio, don't always see that. Hopefully for the leaders, we're not about to see another one. They're certainly close enough for something like at the break.
Another driver that had some issues was the number 321. He is now in 12th position, and that was Paulo Munoz going deep into China Beach. He did manage to find his way back on, but only after he lost positions. This is... go ahead.
15 minutes into this race now, I was just going to mention to our viewers that strategy probably won't come into play yet. It's more about going to happen at the halfway point. So if any of those drivers do have to pit for damage, that's going to screw their day up.
Oh, wow, things are getting awful close through madness here as Karen almost getting to the bumper of Acosta. We ride on board looking back from Diaz at the train that follows our leader. This track has really proved, Sam, to be incredibly difficult for the drivers today. I would think with the grippy conditions, as a look to the inside, down through the carousel, Karen is tired of playing third fiddle. He's going to try and get up into P2. The number 5 cannot execute.
I wonder if there are a bit of team tactics going on here. Diaz and Acosta have realised they've brought the field into them, so maybe they're happy just to run single file so that they stay 1-2. And Karen's realised, okay, I'm not having that. I want to get through these guys, and I'm the one who's got to do the hard work here. Because the top 6 cars are now within 2.5 seconds. It is really close up here, and let's hope that we don't see any more drivers, especially in this front pack, outbreak themselves here at China Beach, because then it could end in tears. Oh, and as I say that, Diego does that a little bit.
That's the second time that Diego has done that, and it's the same exact spot, almost a carbon copy. He loses half a second up to Karen. So that splits it now into 2 battles of 3 between our top 6. They come over the leap. It certainly could come back together, especially once they get the slipstream down the backstretch.
Yeah, it seems these drivers, our leaders, Joe, are all able to run low 117s, but Diaz is running high 117s right now, and as a result, so is everyone behind him because they can't get by. 117
tires.
Yeah, 117.5 for Diaz. But you go back to David Holland in 6th place and he runs a 117.3.
Looking very similar to F1 from this past weekend, as this could be a bit of management from our number 30 up at the front. So far, it hasn't phased him enough to lose the lead. Since the drop of the green, our pole sitter has led every lap of the race. Now, Acosta not close enough to attack down into China Beach this time. What about Garrido? Garrido once again a little bit wide at the apex, but a little tighter than what we saw before.
Yeah, and talking similarities between this and the Singapore Grand Prix the past weekend, Joe, the leaders aren't going to want to pit early and risk getting held up in traffic. That's, what kept a lot of leaders in the F1 race out. They're going to want to go as long as they can, as Karen takes a peek, as long as they can, so that when they do pit, most of the midfielders pit too when they're released into clear track.
Oh, and Carini's had a problem. Where did this happen? Oh, this looks like just out of China Beach before Madness. It's like as the car comes through the corner, it looks pretty good, and then suddenly this Ford comes around. I think it's maybe a little bit of grass here, Sam?
It's a possibility, but when we come back to live action, I'll tell you, Diego just threw it down the inside of Andrew Karen, entering the keyhole and took 3rd place. This was a pretty clean pass, Joe, and really came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was. Oh, you know what facilitated it is Karen went wide off of the first corner. We're going to see here. Watch the red, white, and black car that you see on your screen off into the grass, and then the red Ferrari has a clear run and does not hesitate.
He almost did a fake to the outside and then said, no, I'm going down the inside, and then was just a car's width.
That's all he needed. Watch from on board Diego. Woof. Brave stuff. Come back live. The BMW still holding on to the back of Garrido. He seemed to have the pace on the leader, so does he immediately attack back as soon as he sees an opening? Or does he wait patiently? They haven't lost touch with the top 2 of Diaz and Acosta. There you can see them coming around the keyhole. squaring off that exit, looking for the good shot down the backstretch.
How often do you see races 20 minutes old with a lead pack like that?
Especially not in GTE cars at a track like this as well. Don't need to go to it, but Anthony Pisano had a spin in turn 11. Didn't hit the wall, but got it going once again. He's fallen to 26th.
Now, I gotta confess, Joe, I forget which driver it was, but one of these two really screwed up their pit stop at Laguna Seca, didn't they? They were held several seconds longer than they needed to be.
I believe that was it Eisler?
Ooh,
It might have been
Kevin. Sorry, Kevin was taking a look at on Garrido. Oh, and we got trouble further back in the field. Freitas, I believe.
Yeah, Borda, and you're right, Freitas. The 96. This happens into China Beach. Oh, you know what? Looks like Ignacio just started to lose the car ahead of him. Oh, but Borda was deep into the corner too. Gonna watch from on board Borda. Target fixation.
I think he had to react there on exit. But I'll tell you what, Joe. I normally don't think of this as a track where you get multi-car collisions. We've seen a few of them today.
Really have. And it's not really been because of aggressive passes or anything. It's drivers making errors.
Oh,
now we've been
almost
getting
saw
some
another
aggressiveness. Yeah. Oh, that was Karen that we just maybe caught a glance of on Garrido through madness. And that's not the first time he's made contact with the rear bumper of Diego. We're going to watch the replay.
Yeah, we were watching live a little further back in the field, but yeah, boy, did they get close here. You say, yeah, there was a bit of contact.
Lightest of touches.
And let's go back live, because there could very easily be some more coming up soon.
The National Series for NASCAR races here, so maybe he's taking in some inspiration, looking for a little bump and run to get this third place back. Again, getting very, very bravely close to the back of Diego. They climb up the hill towards the keyhole. He's closer, but not close enough for the pass.
And Obsidian Racing is loving this, because they're finally able to get some breathing room.
Mid-corner, we've seen multiple times. It seems like Karen just gets right underneath that rear spoiler. Car is handling slightly different through the corners. Now he's going to have a go, takes a peek down to the inside as the traffic distracts them. Rodriguez tries to stay out of the way, but they've got more up ahead. That's, excuse me, that is, trying to figure it out, that's Gary Schilling as well.
Poor lap cars, they probably, you know, normally you're running there, the tail end of a lead lap, you see the leaders coming up, it's like, oh, okay, I'll let him by, and then I'll let second by, and then I'll let third by. No, they pretty much got to let 7 cars by here in one go.
In quick succession, you're right. Now, you talked about nobody willing to pit early, but I almost get the feeling that even with how they're being held up, it might be worth someone experimenting at the tail of this train.
Yeah, Lucas Bacigalupo might be, someone who might try to make that happen, because he hasn't always been. I mean, he's been on the tail end of his train the whole time, but every now and then he's fallen out of touch. So, maybe the absence of traffic could be something that, it isn't a distraction for him, and he can move up in the train a little bit.
Oh, do we have more problems for Borda? He was turned around just before Thunder Valley. I think this was a solo car incident.
We finally got one of those.
Yeah, you can see the rear just came around on that Ford, and he thankfully got it off the track before someone came by. Gets it going, and he, in fact, if we come back live, he's coming into the pits now in a bit of an awkward manner. A little bit off track.
I'll tell you what, every driver from like 8th to 15th is about to have a really quiet race. They're all spread out about 2 or 3 seconds. It's the top 7 who are bunched together, and then everyone 15th on back.
We do have a little bit of a battle back in 11th place. This is between Horacio Calquin and Paulo Munoz. As Munoz trails behind in his Ferrari. looking to see if he can maybe square off the exit of the carousel and onto the front stretch, but nothing doing for now. Now they got cars coming out of pit lane.
Yeah, that'll shake things up. By the way, Diaz is... maybe it's because of a battle between Diego and Andrew, but Diaz and Acosta do finally have a tiny bit of breathing room. You see that it's starting to look a little bit more spread out now, but all it takes is a bad lap from Diaz and they're all bunch up again.
Stay with this battle, but Jared Ducloy had an off and found the wall just before the carousel. He gets it going, another single car incident. Meanwhile, we watch the top 6, who knows how many it is at this point, with Diaz leading the way. Still not coming into the pits quite yet, holding up the train of cars behind him. Ever since we saw a bit of an attempt from Karen before, he started to fall back from Diego. He's been gapping that number 06.
So while this is all happening at the front end of the field, let's give you a proper update on the back end of the field. 2 cars, it looks like, are out of a race or multiple laps down. That's Lewandowski and Mitchell. Everyone from 32nd on back is 1 lap down or on the lead lap.
Onto the backstretch once again. Acosta just out of reach. Haven't seen much change in the way of the weather. It's still about 80 degrees on the track surface. So the driver is not having to really adapt too badly to conditions being variable around here. As up and over, look how close behind that Ferrari Acosta gets.
Yeah, I never knew it was this cloudy in Ohio, although I guess the hastily made Cleveland tourism video did mention that they see the sun almost 3 times a year, but that's not happening here today. It's very cool out there, and of course these drivers won't be changing tyres during their pit stops, so hopefully this is going to give them great grip for the rest of the race, and we'll see more great driving, although I think Diego put a couple wheels off from 3rd that time.
Well, in Cincinnati, the joke was always, if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes. So it certainly changes around typically in Ohio pretty frequently. Meanwhile, haven't seen a whole lot of changing around up at the front of the field. That's what we saw last race. A few passes here and there as they come up to the keyhole. Ooh, getting close once again. I think Karen's got his legs underneath him once more. A great run, and he's got the inside as they come down the backstretch. Garrido unable to defend with a nose inside. The BMW of Karen looks like he has his 3rd position back. It took him a number of laps, but Karen can now look ahead to see if he can refocus on maybe challenging for 2nd or potentially even 1st.
Couple of things were unexpected there. One was the pass in the first place because Diego looked like he had been trekking out on Andrew. And the second one was how Diego gave up a position. I'm so used to him racing aggressively from Laguna Seca. He used his head though. I realised the position was not his anymore. Gave it up on the straight and gave them both the racing line back for the turn. So now they can proceed to maybe run down their leaders again.
Had a couple takers for the pits. Swaby in for a scheduled one. Almanar as well. Oh, maybe Almanar's wasn't scheduled. We understand that he got involved in an incident.
Yeah, or if you're going to make an unscheduled stop, now's a good time to do it.
Yeah, just about at halfway for this 60-minute race here, round 2 at Mid-Ohio. As we continue to watch our leaders stick to one another. This has been a fascinating back and forth between the front pack. Really hard to get a finger on exactly what is going on. And
I almost wonder, as you mentioned earlier, Joe, how that's going to affect their strategy. You know, if the pack is stretching and then collapsing again, you know, almost like a mega accordion effect, Diaz and Acosta might want to choose to make a pit stop when they have a bit of a gap of Karen and Garrido.
And we had a change for position in 15th. Stacey Dunnigan finding more action out on track, outbraked himself into the keyhole. That's going to hand the position over to Fredes.
And lap traffic finally plays its role when the lead pack, Isla, really got held up by Danny Dutrend there. He lost a lot of time to Diego in 4th place.
That backs him up into Holland. And actually, Holland might be under threat because Bacigalupo looks like he is going to try and take a run to the inside, down to the keyhole. He's got the desired racing line, but can he get the shot off the corner? Not quite as good as that red and white Ferrari. Holland, the number 8, coming back at him the long way around. They even out as they're both the same car, hitting top end, braking into China Beach, and Holland can't quite make it stick.
So top 4 cars have broke away. Then we've got this 3-way battle for 5th, 6th and 7th, and then everything's a bit broken up behind them. But we're over halfway now, just waiting to see when pit stops pan out. But lap traffic is still so light for the leaders, honestly, that I wouldn't be surprised for them to stay out. What we got going on here, Drew?
Dunnigan again, and at the same corner. Except in this case, Dunnigan outbraked himself into Fredes, and Duhamel, Duhamel, looks like he got a little piece of it as well.
Fortunately, I think both of them should be able to recover, but I'm sure they won't be too pleased about that.
Dunnigan just does not seem to have a good handle on the car. And I can't tell if it's setup or if it's the fact that Dunnigan managed to get some contact in turn 1 a few laps ago.
Our leaders just went deep at the China Beach. And that cost Karen a bit of time. It cost Acosta a bit of time. And Diaz has actually been able to break away for the first time since really the start of a race.
You got to wonder if Diaz is looking for moments like that, Sam, because if he can get that gap, that's the point which is safest for him to pit.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but my gut feeling is he's not going to pit now. He's still enjoying that view through his windshield of a nice, clean racetrack, only obscured by Lyndon Swaby, but he's still a few seconds up the road and not battling anyone for position.
Yeah, once he gets Swaby, that'll be only 19 cars left on the lead lap as they've been slicing through. Now, granted, some of those drivers that are behind them have taken pit stops already, and the top 20 have yet to come in. So that will shuffle around some, and we'll get a real picture of it after pit stops complete.
Let's see if all of them hit their braking markers this time. By Diaz has lost that comfortable lead he'd built up, if you can call a 1 second lead comfortable, because Acosta's already right on the back of his rear wing.
They continue to approach Swaby. And once again, we saw this before, Sam, that if you get a whole train of cars, it's a lot harder to let them through without disadvantaging anybody. I think somebody's going to get the raw end of the stick.
Yeah, and I wonder what Swaby's mentality is. Let's not forget he's lost a lot of positions this race from being tapped around earlier. Is he in a bad mood? He doesn't really want to let these guys by. You know, he wants to try and make up time on the cars ahead. Or, you know, the alternative for that is he might have gave up, be like, oh, I'm having a bad race anyway. You guys go by. Whoa, Acosta's getting close to Diaz in turn 1 there.
I am pretty certain we don't have team orders between these two at the moment. They've been aggressive with one another, coming off of the keyhole, now just a couple tenths behind Lyndon Swaby.
Yeah, I hope Swaby lets these guys by, because this is the closest I think we've really seen him. Acosta backed out a little bit there. I don't think that was a team orders decision, though. I think he realised this isn't happening. Too close to the turn.
Yeah, even though I suspect we don't have team orders, I have a feeling that there is at least an unspoken rule of don't hit your teammate. It's because they want to take this team championship for the second season running, and Karen wants to try and interrupt that. The 06 once again getting to the bumper of the 5.
Maybe if they're really keen on that team championship, they'll both let Karen buy and say, hey, if we let you win this race, join our team, make us 3 cars, and they'll dominate the series.
They really would. Said it last race, and I'll say it again. We kept watching Karen whenever he showed up and suspected that he would be a potential competitor for the championship. So far, that is looking to be the case this season as well. I thought they would get Swaby by this point, and yet they haven't run him down. In fact, they don't look to be all that much closer.
Well, let's not forget, Swaby, I know he's running 21st, but he qualified 14th. He has a decent pace. He's just back there through some misfortune. But I'll tell you what, these 4 have checked out on the rest of that lead pack we had going on a while ago. Isler, Lucas, and the rest of them have all fallen back a bit.
Yeah, Isler with about a 1.5 second gap up to 4th. Not quite as strong as we saw last race, at least in the early stages. Maybe saving the tires a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're doing no tires, especially. Whoa, boy, Karen is getting close to Costa, looking on the outside of a carousel.
Looking for just about anything. Is frustration starting to come into play for some of these drivers up at the top? If anything, the one who's looked most patient in recent laps is Diego, back and forth.
We've had a change for 8th place here. Montini has gotten by John Ambrose.
Did that happen recently? Trying to figure out where exactly that went down. Still not been a bad race for John Ambrose. He started in 9th. He's sitting in 9th.
Anything better than what happened at Laguna Seca.
Yeah, now that he's been able to start from the grid, he's been making good on that pace. Top 10s are not easy to come by in this series as we look back at the leaders once more. Apologies to the rest of the field, but we can't really duck away when things are this close, and especially now that they have caught well, no, this is Gary Schilling up in front of them. Did they already overtake Swaby?
Yeah, they got by Swaby, and Schilling's just saying, I'm getting out of the way. I see 4 leaders by me, and the leaders, though, dicing it up a little bit. Karen and Garrido go side by side. That lets the Obsidian Racing drivers break away a little bit, though. Oh, Garrido going down the inside of Karen. Is Karen going to pit? Yes, he is. He realizes, well, I'm just going to lose time and ground by giving up that position. I might as well come in and make my stop.
Wow, look at that clever thinking from the 06. Now, can it be a quick stop is the question. He's got to get back out and get back on the throttle as quick as possible and get a good outlap. But the top 3 have changed to Diaz, Acosta, and Garrido. Should put Karen up into the highest pitter position because Peterson is only just now coming up to the carousel. And Karen is out of the pit lane.
And just a short pit stop needed for 20 minutes worth of fuel. Now, of course,
is that Montini? No, that's Francisco Iannicelli. Well down the order. He's in 31st. He was just letting the leaders by, and he was off in China Beach. Not sure if he had help. Nope, this is all by himself, it looks like. So don't need a replay on that.
Karen came out in clean racetrack. So I don't know if our leaders have spotters who can tell them that, or if they can figure it out themselves through their relative screen.
Sometimes they're even listening to the broadcast, you know, so who knows? So far, all 3 of them stay out. Diaz, Acosta, and Garrido not coming in. Isler also stays out. Everybody ahead of Karen does not pit.
The bad news for Karen is the leaders spread out a little bit. He would love to see these guys battling each other now, holding each other up, but nothing like that is happening right now.
It is certainly not. And even though he doesn't have anyone for quite a while up ahead, Karen's still got to hustle to make good on this clear air. There you see the Canadian coming up and over the humps down the hill to China Beach, one of the lowest points on track.
Yeah, well, it seems the fast time this race has been a low 117, and the slow time for the leaders has been a high 117. So Karen knows, I'm sure, what he's got to aim for.
And none of the top three come in yet again, so let's see what they do this time by.
Oh, 116.8 for Diaz. That's a bad sign.
Acosta with a 117.1 and Garrido with the same. What is Karen's going to be? This is going to be the first full lap that we're going to get out of the 06.
Yes, has Diaz just been playing a game all race?
It's looking kind of like that. Cross the line. Oh, it's a 117.3. He is definitely slower. The plot thickens as we go to the battle for 7th place. Federico Montini has John Ambrose, who's back up into 8th, thanks to the pit stop from Karen. Federico a little bit under pressure from the red and white Ferrari.
Yeah, Ambrose is trying to get that position back that he lost from one of his own mistakes.
Ambrose certainly knows how to deal with these sorts of things, not just here in iRacing, but he's raced in real life. He's also worked on the crew in real life with various teams.
One of our leaders coming in, Lucas Bacigalupo. This came down the pits. Would have to be a mega stop or a very slow stop from Karen for him to leapfrog him, but something worth keeping an eye on here.
Peterson might be with him. This might be a battle between himself and the 913. So Bacigalupo absolutely fires it out of the stall. Nope, not going to be close with Peterson. And Karen is easily by, but I think Lucas gained a little bit in that exchange.
Yeah, there's a lot of drivers out here today who are having good races, like Leif Peterson in the top 10. They just haven't been exciting races. Oh, and that's the wrong kind of excitement.
Yeah, Carollo coming out of the final corner. I think gets a little too much curb here. Finds the wall in a big way in that Porsche. Watch from on board.
And don't feel too bad here, Carrillo. I think in the Lionheart IndyCar Series race earlier this year, Sage Karam had a similar crash. So professional racing drivers do that too.
Garrido pits now. So does Holland. With the good pit stop that we saw for the number 11 of Bacigalupo, I wonder if he might jump a few of these.
Yeah, well, Garrido, of course, was very close to Karen. Well, they were side by side when Karen came into the pits. Will they be side by side on exit? Here we go. We're about to find out because Garrido is rolling.
Bacigalupo's down the front stretch. The 11 is going to manage to go by Holland, though. And he jumps Holland by a huge gap. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that Holland was decently ahead of him.
Yeah, but Garrido's had a mega stop as well. Remember, we were talking about Garrido and Andrew Karen, how close they were. Garrido is far ahead of Karen after the pit stops have cycled through.
About 2.5 seconds, no, just 2 seconds quicker. Garrido was over Karen. Once again, very similar to Laguna Seca that it comes down to pit stops.
Diaz, our race leader, comes in. So now with that mega stop for Diego, could Diego threaten Diaz's lead here?
Keeping an eye on Diego. He comes up and over turn 11 just as our leader hits his stall. There you can see the timer on the left side. Diego's on the right with 28.7 seconds total. Diaz is right at the end, so immediately pulls away. Diego's got the speed, but I think he's going to be just shy.
Yeah, so Diaz far ahead of Garrido, and Garrido far ahead of Karen. These top three have really spread out, so let's see where Costa comes out in all this.
0.2 of a second between them in the stall. That is very tight.
Yeah, so I think Diaz must have made up his time on pit entry or something because he's gained more than 2/10 over the rest of his competition.
Entry or pit in, pit out, or excuse me, the in lap or out lap rather. Could be either one. But what about his teammate, Abner Acosta? Now, he gained the lead last time through the pit stops, and he's going to
Still
stay
going.
out.
All right, this is going to be a very short stop from Acosta. And
Eisler
a
pits.
1:17.2. A good lap time still. So Acosta has just been saving his fuel behind Diaz.
Yeah, seemed to have a pretty quick stop last round as well. Only 15 minutes left on the clock. Costa still has a ways to go around. Only he and Duchesne are the two drivers that need to pit still. Everybody else has come in. After Eisler's pit stop, just some information, he comes back out in 5th. And that should be exactly where he is once the rest of our drivers pit, because Acosta should be easily ahead of him.
Acosta's about to catch a little bit of lap traffic here, so even if he isn't completely out of fuel, I would recommend him coming in this lap. And he is, probably because he's out of fuel though.
Got to trundle all the way down to the front. Diaz coming around and over the leap with a 1.5 second lead over Diego Garrido. Andrew Caron continues to try and reel in the number 317.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is a quick stop for Acosta.
Oh, but Diaz just was forced off track as well by lap traffic. Duhamel, unfortunately, did not see him coming, and that gives a big gap up to Acosta. This is looking like 3+ seconds.
Yeah, I'm not sure that runoff would have even made much of a difference. Acosta had such a quick pit stop for the amount of fuel I guess he was able to save while he was running in second. What a championship battle we're going to have between these two.
Sure will. Wonder if we could get a replay on board of Diaz. This was a scary moment. I think it was all 4 wheels off. You see just the tail end of it. There's the locked car ahead, just not anticipating things quite how it went. New Yorker survives to fight another day. Interestingly. Oh, and what's happened to Caron? That's Bacigalupo.
2 of our top 10 runners here. It could have... I haven't seen the replay yet, Joe, but lap traffic could have had something to do with this. There's been a lot of it.
I think it is. It's all on his own. There you see. And the same with Lucas, though Lucas may have been a little put out. Oh, as they make contact a second time as they get going. This is from on board the number 11.
He was probably distracted by the car spinning, made a mistake of his own.
So that sends Lucas to 7th, Caron to 6th through that. And that is a real shame with the pace that the 06 has been showing. Diego's not too concerned. He earns 3rd place out of that, and Christian Eisler is promoted to 4th.
Yeah, lap traffic is a bit of a factor for our leaders right now. They're all having to work their way through it. I know Acosta has a 2.5 second lead of Diaz, but you never know if lap traffic is going to favor you or not.
Let's go to 10th because John Ambrose trying to hold off Paulo Munoz. Munoz gets to his inside. Not the strictest of defense that we've seen from Ambrose, so he's just going to let him through, looking for the checkered flag today, it seems. Heard that as we go down to 15th position, Carini dealing with Jose Malbron, who seems to have some connection issues, as well as Lyndon Swaby. But as we watch this fight, I heard some interesting information that John talked to some of his sponsors, and they were a little surprised at his results for the first week. Not in a good way, and definitely not in a good way for Jean-Francois Carini, who noses it into the Armco. Rear that car, unfortunately, finding its way around, and I think we saw a similar incident from Carini earlier on where he looped it.
The sun is out now, but I wouldn't have thought it would be making that much of a handling difference. At the moment, it's still a cool track temperature, just I think maybe drivers getting a bit fatigued in the closing stages of a race because we're seeing a lot of unforced errors happening out there.
This style of car and track combination has certainly proved maybe a little too much for our drivers. There's very few that have gotten away mistake-free today. And they've still got to go 9 more minutes to get to the checkered flag.
Yeah, but perhaps it's because of all the grassy runoff area. It's nice to still see a lot of our drivers who have started out there. And I think, we didn't have a single retirement at Laguna Seca, did we? We'll have to double check. No, we have had a couple of retirements today, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, just a few that unfortunately met their end prematurely. Got something of a battle for 8th. It's Montini, Peterson, and Munoz. This is just ahead of Ambrose. Munoz certainly on a tear. He left Ambrose in the dust since he passed him just about a lap or 2 ago, and is already attacking Peterson.
I'm trying to make sure he didn't make an unscheduled stopper. Whoa, there's a really intense battle going on down into turn 1, but I think it's between Jose Malbran and Lyndon Swaby. I want to give Swaby a shout out here because he's back on the lead lap in 16th place. Assuming he's got enough fuel to make it to the end. I'll have to check on that.
His first stop came on lap 5, which is way too early. And then I'm seeing a second one. So yeah, he is done. Or no, maybe his first stop. No, excuse me, that may have just been a spin on the first incident that I'm seeing on his lap times.
Yeah, if this is for real for Swaby that he's trying to get 15th place back here, he's had a nice run back through the field. Mind you, give this guy a shout out, Jose Malbran. He started all the way back in 31st and is currently in 15th. Now, the bad news for our race leader is he is about to catch this scrap.
Yeah, that is Abner Acosta. This is looking eerily similar to last round, where Acosta took the lead in the pit stops.
Oh, and contact between them! This is really not going to help Acosta if he has to slow down for it, so I don't know if that was impatience or a mistake from Swaby there.
Whatever the case, doesn't look like it slowed down the leader, as the car was well off track. Right on board with Lyndon, the Canadian. Just couldn't get it woed up in time and shoves him off into the grass. In the meantime, Swaby has let Acosta by. What was fascinating last round was that Acosta, though he got the lead, he started to lose it to Diaz very quickly. Now, Michael seems to have gained a little bit, but this is looking like too little, too late.
Yeah, of course, you've always got to throw the fuel game in there as well. These drivers good on fuel. Because Diaz is capturing Acosta, but like you say, maybe not enough.
There you see the lap comparison right there. And it's been swaying back and forth. Faster than slower, then faster than slower. Hard to tell if that is due to traffic or if they are really reacting and responding to one another. So we talked about Munoz getting away from Ambrose. Well, now Munoz being held up by Peterson. has allowed Ambrose to catch back up. And this is all behind Federico Montini in 8th position. This could become a 4-car fight if they're not careful.
We're going to be right on the cusp, Pedro, of 4 or 5 laps left to go. And of course, it's always tricky because you always got to wonder, if it goes to 5 laps left to go, did all of our leaders plan for that 5th lap?
I think you had the same worry last time, though, and we had it clear.
I have a worry every single time we have one of these time races. The drivers push it to the limit.
Peterson with a bad run up to the keyhole. Munoz not close enough to capitalize. We ride on board now with the 3-2-1, looking back at the double locked and the, right on board with the 9-1-3, looking back at the 3-2-1. Looking good under braking for Paulo Munoz, but just not close enough to try and send one in.
Munoz has had an eventful race today. He might be able to come out of it with a top 10 though.
Laps continue to tick down. We're keeping half an eye on that pace between our 2 leaders. I can report that Acosta is continuing to look slightly faster than Diaz. We stay on this battle. This is our best on the track.
And look how much traffic they're going to have to deal with. That's why you see some flashing headlights going on.
A lot of traffic. That's Elijah Mitchell pulling out of the way, as well as Almanar. Oh, whoa! Way too deep into the corner for Paulo Munoz, and John Ambrose says, thank you very much. I'll take that 10th place back.
It's not over yet though, still a few laps left to go for these guys. Munoz might be thinking about getting it back straight away. No.
He thought about it, he couldn't act on it. It wasn't nearly close enough to the Shell Ferrari. So the 00 now into madness has got to defend for a couple laps. Speaking of which, we crossed the line with about 250 to go.
Yeah, it's three laps left to go, Joe. They'll start the final lap with 15 seconds left on the clock.
Hope everybody accounted for that extra lap through the carousel for this train. Still up at the front with Federico Montini getting by Lowendick. Everybody through on the front stretch. Wow, that was a great job by Ted. Up to where the overtake happened last lap. John Ambrose now looking at Leif Peterson in front of himself instead. Keeps from going in too deep like Munoz did. Paulo getting the shot off the corner though. Looking to see if he can use the slipstream as they gain speed, getting up to 160 miles an hour by the time they hit the braking zone. Nothing doing.
Yeah, good little three-way scrap here to finish this race off. And they'll be coming to 2 to go when they come to the line. It's been clean so far. See what happens when everything's on the table.
Worth noting that Acosta lost about 8/10 since we last looked at Diaz.
Oh, we got car off there, Joe.
Was that Montini? Whoa, and deep into the corner. And there's a tip from John Ambrose. That was Peterson who goes around. Paulo Munoz has to take evasive action.
Been so clean for so long. As we mentioned, know that with that checkered flag in sight, things get just a little bit too dicey.
I don't know. Ambrose, you kind of can't blame him for sticking his nose in. Did he get chopped off, or did he try too ambitious of a move? Maybe we'll get to talk to him post-race and see if we could find out his feelings. There is the lap comparison between Acosta and Diaz once again. Diaz responding slightly to Acosta, getting it down to 2/10 of a second, or not 2/10, 2 second, just as the white flag comes out. But finding 2 seconds in a single lap sounds to me a little bit too tall of an ask, even though he has lap traffic in front of himself.
Yeah, no, our colleague Bill Zahn likes to add drama whenever he wants. So I mentioned this: has Acosta been giving up that time on purpose to save fuel? My guess is though that hasn't been the case because he's still got a pretty good buffer here.
And a pretty good pace. If he was
He's
having
got
to
a lot
save
of lap
fuel,
traffic though.
yeah, that is Joey Trungale in front of him as well as Fredes.
Bad place to catch him. Oh, contact and spins him.
Big contact with Trungale, who goes around. That cuts down on the gap slightly, but even with damage, if he has any, I think he's good to get to the end.
Yeah, it cost him a few tenths of a second. Trungale gets back on track without losing any positions. Actually, he is in the battle for 25th now. But here comes Acosta.
The checkered flag comes out. It squeezes down to within a second, but Abner responds to his teammate's victory by taking his own here in round 2. Diaz across the line to finish second, with Garrido not quite the pace that he needed to challenge them in the final stage of the race, but still gets a podium. Holland with a quiet top 5 there in the number 8. Disappointment for Karen. Is Karen handing a position over here? Nope, that's just lap cars going by. Nope, he's able to get across. He'll get 6th place.
Well, that confirms one feeling I had. Swaby just got spun by Jose Malbran on the cooldown lap. And Swaby got into the back of Malbran in the middle of a race.
And as they continue to finish up, the last one on the lead lap is Ignacio Rodriguez Fredes. So, no more battles to finish up here as we watch Heb. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. If you watch on screen, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. We just watched round 2 of the PRL GTE Sports Car Series. It's tit for tat in the championship fight because Abner Acosta came back from the second place last week and beat his teammate Michael Diaz to the win. Diaz came home just behind him by about a second as some lap traffic might have cost Abner Acosta the Clean Race Award as he got into Joey Trungale at the end. Diego Garrido finishes in third, having started in fifth behind them. And then Christian Eisler from fourth to fourth. This is becoming a little bit of a thing for the 727. David Holland rounds out your top 5. Andrew Caron, unfortunately, who was looking so good on pace and qualified on the inside of the second row, settles for 6th place. Lucas Basigalupo gets 7th for himself. Federico Montini with an 8th. And 9th place for John Ambrose. Those 3 drivers all finished exactly where they started. So does the driver behind them, rounding out the top 10, Paulo Munoz.
In 11th position was Leif Peterson, and behind him comes James Hebb in 12th. Horacio Calquim finished where he started in 13th place, and then a good run by Ignacio Fredes, who went from 22nd to 14th. Lyndon Swaby was our first car 1 lap down. He had a bit of a comeback after an early incident. Jose Malbran finishes in 16th, all the way from 31st on the grid. Good run for him. Donald Olsen finishes in 17th, ahead of Anthony Pisano in 18th place. Shane Duhamel and Dre F. Carini round out our top 20.
James LeBlanc took 21st today, with Jonathan Almanar in 22nd, and it's Jared Duploy in 23rd. Spencer Simkovich was 24th in the last car 1 lap down. They would get to cars that had some big trouble today. Danny Duchesne in 25th, Joey Trungale in 26th, and Gary Schilling in 27th. A few other cars that did manage to get to the line was Francisco Iannicelli in 28th, and Kenny Rodriguez DNF'd down in 29th. 30th, another DNF with Ted Lowendig. Sam?
Yeah, and then on the last page here, people who will probably want to forget today: Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Garula, Stacey Dudonyon, and Fernando Borda. And then the other 3 did not start: Eric, Luke, Carlos Suarez Venezuela, and Mark File.
We have our winner ready to talk to us, Abner Acosta, who had a very similar race to the first round at Laguna Seca. Abner, you pulled the same move. You sat behind your teammate. You saved some fuel. You came out ahead, but this time you managed to stay ahead. What changed?
I that was a very hard race. I don't think anything changed. If anything, I think he was faster here than he was at Laguna. I'm not sure, but he was just faster than me, and I know nothing really changed. I just pitted and I just tried to stay consistent. I wasn't even looking at my lap times or anything, and I was just trying to be as consistent as possible and just try to stay ahead those 3 seconds that I took off from the pit stop.
Well, do you have any idea if Michael was watching his times? Because we noted it seemed like he was going a little slow and looked like the cork in the bottle in the first half before the pit stops. You guys had quite a train going.
Yes. Well, we're teammates, so we're on the same Discord. So at the end, it was very hard. Obviously, I knew his lap times. His spotter was telling his lap times, and it made it kind of even worse because I could just see how much he was gaining on me. And I'm like, ugh. At the beginning, I know that the strategy was more to like save tires. So he wasn't really going at his full potential. And if you could tell, like by the mid part of the race, he kind of started going at the pace that he could go, and he would be like 2 to 3 tenths faster than me.
Now, we've seen that it's going to be tight between you and your teammate for the championship here if things stay the same. We saw you had a little contact at the end of the race with a lapped car. Did that cost you a 4X? Because that will mean a bonus point out of your pocket.
Yeah, that definitely was a 4X. I think I was already past the 3X, so it's fine. He almost caused me a heart attack more than a X.
I can imagine so. Well, you still came home with a win, trading wins here with your teammate. Congratulations on the victory here at Mid-Ohio.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Abner Acosta, the Obsidian racer, was joined on the podium by his teammate Michael Diaz. Sam has caught up with him.
Yeah, Michael, you didn't get the win this race, but you're shaping up for a good championship fight, you and your teammate. Michael, have you got a copy?
Sorry, my push to talk wasn't set up.
There we go. We got you now. Talk to us about, that the race with your teammate there and this interesting championship fight you guys look like you're going to have coming up.
Yeah, it seems so. About the race, it was all about managing the tires today. Because if we went full pace, and we would have been dead by the end. So I really focus on keeping the tires alive to the pit stops, and then just go from there. I need to get a new fueling software because it's really messing.
Just one quick note about the start of a race. The top 7 of you all pretty much, nose to tail. It was a close race. Did you guys feel in control? Did you feel like you were controlling the field, or were your eyes on your rearview mirror the whole time?
No, no. Like I said, we were controlling the pace to manage the tires. Because if we went full pace, and the tires, we would have just killed them and be dead by the end.
Well, it was a good strategy, and it paid off with another 1-2 for you guys today. You've only got 2 drivers in your team, though, and a few other teams battling you in the team championship have 3. Are you going to do something about that? Are you going to hire someone else?
I just noticed that last week. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but I don't know. Maybe someone out there wants to join us. We'll see how it goes.
All right. Well, we wish you the best of luck. Until then, maybe you and Costa can keep getting 1-2s, and it won't be an issue.
Hopefully. Thanks, guys.
Now, was our second place finisher, Michael Diaz.
Yeah, looking very Mercedes-esque so far at the start of the season.
Oh,
I'm
you
sure
watch
everybody's-
Singapore, Joe. That's Ferrari, yes.
Yeah, now it is. Yeah, exactly. But regardless, I think they're going to have a target on their back. We are certainly to the back end of this broadcast. So we are going to, of course, close things up with a big thank you to our sponsors, SIMSA being one of them. The Simulation Motorsports Affinity can be found at simsa.net. If you want to see how they can get you involved with the global sim racing community, reach out to them there. Also, big thank you to Butt Kicker, who can be found at thebuttkicker.com. Got to make sure and get that correct. All of their products are great stuff that you'll definitely want to get if you want the full immersion of sim racing with your rig. Also, a thank you goes out to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing Esports Network. If you'd like to subscribe, and we highly encourage you to do so, all you got to do is click the big red button on their YouTube page. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sam, Amjad, and Dougie, with a special thank you to our spotter behind the scenes, Adam Lindgren. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, and Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel. Of course, Instagram is still GSRC_Graham. The next race in a week's time, we are going up to Wisconsin for Road America. That'll be Tuesday, October 1st at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.